The horizon's edge rattled as it dropped out of hyperspace, protesting the maneuver with a groan of stressed metal. Captain Risa Holloway gritted her teeth, feeling the familiar shudder beneath her boots. The ship was, as always, holding together by sheer defiance. "All right," she muttered, tapping the console. "What's got us jumping into the great unknown this time?" From his station, Jonah Jinx Patel, the ship's engineer, twisted in his seat. His dark curls were in a perpetual state of disarray, and the nervous energy in his eyes suggested he already regretted whatever had brought them here. "So, about that distress signal," Risa sighed. "Just say it, Jinx. It's not human." The bridge went silent. Dr. Alara Voss, their resident scientist and dreamer, leaned forward with sudden interest. "Alien, alien." Jonah gestured toward the viewport, where a massive, broken silhouette loomed against the backdrop of a dead star. And, big didn't do it justice. The ship was a monolithic beast, half of it still intact, while the other half was a graveyard of shattered plating and exposed wiring. Despite its ruinous state, the vessel had a presence, something oppressive and ancient, like a lion too wounded to hunt but still lethal. Zeke Moreno, the wild card of their crew, let out a low whistle from his seat. "I dunno, Cap. That thing looks like it eats ships like ours for breakfast." Risa knew he wasn't wrong. The hull bore the jagged insignia of the Zarkari Dominion, one of the most advanced and ruthless empires in the galaxy. The kind of civilization that saw humans as scavengers barely worthy of existing, let alone meddling with their technology. Jonah cleared his throat. There's still energy readings inside. And life support." "That's insane," Alara whispered. "A ship that size, in that condition, it should be a frozen tomb." Risa considered their options. They could turn away, pretend they never saw it. But that ship, if it still had power, if it still had functioning technology, was worth more than anything they had ever scavenged. More than their rust bucket of a ship, more than their questionable alliances. And if the Zarkari weren't here yet, they soon would be. "We board it," Risa decided. Jonah blanched. "Oh, great. Death mission it is." Zeke grinned, already loading his plasma pistol. Finally, some excitement. Alara, predictably, was already pulling up her scanner, her mind undoubtedly racing with possibilities. Risa glanced at her crew, a genius with chronic bad luck, a scientist who romanticized the unknown, and a trigger-happy scavenger. It wasn't much of a team, but it was hers, and they were about to steal from the deadliest species in the galaxy. The boarding process was tense. Their docking clamps barely held against the Zarkari hull, and Jonah grumbled the entire way through the airlock, muttering about structural integrity and instantaneous decompression-related death. The interior of the ship was a ruin. Hallways dark, emergency lights flickering in cold blue pulses. Scorch marks lined the walls, evidence of a battle that had long since ended. The air was stale but breathable, though it carried an unnatural stillness that made Risa's skin prickle. They moved cautiously. Alara's scanner beeped softly, feeding her information in scrolling alien script. "There's a power signature deeper in. It's fragmented, but something's still alive in here." "Alive as in systems?" Risa asked. Alara hesitated. "Maybe." Jonah muttered something under his breath about vague answers being the worst kind of answers. They pressed on, stepping over debris and the occasional Zarkari corpse, charred and twisted, their armor fused to their reptilian bodies. Whatever had crippled this ship had been violent, and yet no sign of the enemy that had done it. They reached what looked like a controlled chamber, its curved architecture alien and elegant even in decay. A massive central console hummed weakly, its interface flickering between incomprehensible symbols. Jonah exhaled. "If I can patch in, maybe we can..." Before he could finish, a deep, mechanical growl filled the room. Risa's hand went to her weapon. Alara's scanner flashed warnings. Then the console screen stabilized, and a voice, cold, synthetic, and laced with something ancient, spoke. Identify. Jonah's face turned 3 shades paler. Oh, that's not good. Zeke grinned. I dunno. It hasn't shot at us yet. That's progress. Alara's eyes were wide with fascination. It's the ship's AI. It's still operational. Risa stepped forward carefully. We're salvagers, she said, knowing that thieves wasn't the best word choice. A pause. The air thrummed. Human. The word carried a weight to it, an edge of something not quite disgust, not quite curiosity. The screen flashed more symbols, diagnostics, damage reports, red warnings in alien text. Vessel, designation, Thunderhead. Alara's breath caught. That's a flagship. This wasn't just some warship. This was leading an armada. Jonah groaned. Oh, fantastic. So instead of stealing from a regular military vessel, we're looting the alien equivalent of a capital ship. This keeps getting better. Risa didn't flinch. Thunderhead, what happened to you? The AI hesitated, as if remembering something it did not want to recall. Then in fractured phrases, betrayed, damaged, left adrift. Alara frowned. Betrayed? By who? A longer pause. Then, Zarkari. The room went still. Jonah blinked. Wait, the Zarkari did this? To their own ship? That doesn't make sense, Alara murmured. Why abandon something this powerful? Risa glanced at the broken monitors, the failing power signatures. Maybe they thought it was unsalvageable. Zeke smirked. Well, guess we'll prove them wrong. Risa turned to her crew. The ship was broken but not dead. The AI was wounded, but still there. And if the Zarkari had given up on it, then it was free for the taking. Jonah, rubbing his temples, sighed. I know that look. You're going to make me fix this, aren't you? Risa grinned. You bet your ass I am. Thunderhead pulsed, the faintest flicker of renewed energy humming through the ship's ruined systems. And just like that, humanity's greatest gamble had begun. Jonah Patel sat cross-legged on the cold deck of the Thunderhead, staring at a mess of alien circuitry with an expression of deep existential regret. This is a terrible idea, he muttered. Risa Holloway crossed her arms, looking down at him. You say that about every idea we have, because every idea we have is terrible. He gestured vaguely at the flickering alien console. This thing thinks in a language I don't understand. It uses energy sources that defy human engineering. One wrong wire, and we either explode, fry ourselves with radiation, or, oh yeah, wake up the ship's security system and get vaporized. Alara Voss knelt beside him, her eyes gleaming with the thrill of the unknown. I think I can help with the language. The AI is fragmented, but it's learning to recognize us. If we synchronize our systems with its architecture, we might be able to communicate properly. Jonah stared at her. You're talking about rewiring the brain of a homicidal warship. Alara shrugged. Isn't that exciting? Jonah made a strangled noise. Zeke Moreno patted him on the shoulder. Relax, Jinx. What's the worst that could happen? Jonah pointed to the still smoking remains of a Zarkari drone he had accidentally activated 5 minutes ago. That... Risa sighed. We don't have a choice. The moment the Zarkari realize their ship isn't as dead as they thought, they'll send reinforcements. We either fix the Thunderhead, or we're space debris. That, more than anything, was enough to get Jonah moving. With a reluctant sigh, he pulled out his tools and got to work. The first problems. Within an hour, Jonah had managed to stabilize some of the ship's failing subsystems. The main power core, however, was another story. The antimatter containment field is cracked, he reported, wiping sweat from his brow. It's holding barely, but if we push it too hard, this thing is going to go off like a dying star. Okay, Risa said. And how do we fix it? Jonah gave her a blank look. You don't fix a cracked antimatter field. You pray it doesn't collapse and take you with it. Risa pinched the bridge of her nose. Options, Jinx. Jonah exhaled, running a hand through his curls. We might be able to reroute power from the secondary reactors to reinforce the containment, but Zeke clapped his hands. Boom, problem solved. Jonah threw up his hands. No, boom, problem solved. The Thunderhead secondary reactors are offline, and if we bring them up improperly, we could overload the whole. A deep, mechanical hum filled the room. The floor trembled. Jonah froze. What did you do? Zeke shrugged, toggled a switch. You, Jonah choked, looking at the console Zeke had been fiddling with. That was an auxiliary system reboot. As if to confirm Jonah's horror, the ship's emergency lights flared to life. Across the control panels, alien symbols flashed, shifting too fast for even Alara's translator to process. Then a new sound, a low, rising whine. Alara's scanner beeped in alarm. We just activated the ship's self-diagnostics. Risa's head snapped up. Meaning? Alara swallowed. Meaning the ship is running a full system check, including weapons and defenses. Silence. Then, Zeke. That might be a good thing. The deck shook violently. In the distance, something exploded. Jonah bolted for the controls, frantically tapping at the interface. No. This is very bad. The ship's security grid is rebooting. If it doesn't recognize us. The lights flashed red. A deep, resonant chime echoed through the corridors, and the AI's fragmented voice rumbled to life. Security breach detected. Alara's breath caught. Oh no! Jonah turned, eyes wide with panic. It thinks we're intruders. Then the walls came alive, dancing with death. Panels hissed open, revealing turret emplacements that powered up with a mechanical whine. The ship's internal defenses, dormant for who knew how long, were now very much awake. Zeke had his gun drawn before Risa could even shout. Cover! The first turret fired, a streak of blue plasma scorching past them. Jonah screamed and dove behind a console. Risa fired back, but the turret's shielding flared, absorbing the hit. Jonah, Risa snapped. Turn them off. Oh, sure, let me just. He ducked as another plasma shot obliterated a chunk of wall above his head. Hack an alien warship in the middle of getting murdered. Great plan. Zeke took a different approach, namely, running toward the nearest turret and punching it. Risa gaped. What the hell are you doing? Zeke ripped a panel off the turret, yanked out a glowing blue power cell, and grinned. The turret died instantly. I have no idea, he admitted, tossing the sparking cell aside. But it worked. Alara, huddled near the central interface, suddenly gasped. Wait, the AI. It's confused. It's not fully online yet, which means it doesn't know we're friendly. Jonah, frantically typing at the alien controls, growled, What do you suggest? Alara's fingers danced across her scanner. We need to override the security protocol before the ship completely locks us out. Risa nodded. Do it. The firefight continued. Turrets firing, Zeke disabling them the only way he knew how, violently, and Jonah cursing as he worked. Then, with a final keystroke, Alara sent the override command. The ship lurched, the red emergency lights flickering. The AI's voice cut through the chaos. Security. Override accepted. Human. Status. Provisional access granted. The turrets shut down instantly. Silence followed, save for the heavy breathing of four very much alive humans. Jonah collapsed onto his back, staring at the ceiling. I hate everything. Zeke, grinning, patted him on the shoulder. You love it. Alara checked her scanner. We did it. The AI has accepted us. Risa exhaled, holstering her gun. Then we're one step closer to making this ship ours. But even as she spoke, a warning alert blinked to life on the console. Alara's face fell. Guys? We've got a problem. Risa turned, already bracing for the worst. What now? Ilara swallowed hard. The Zarkari just picked up the ship's signal. A fleet is on its way. Jonah groaned. Of course they are. Risa straightened, her expression hardening. Well, she said, then we'd better get the ship flying. The Zarkari fleet was coming. Risa Holloway felt the weight of that realization settle deep in her gut. The Zarkari weren't the kind to investigate. They were the kind to annihilate. And right now, the Thunderhead, their only shot at survival, was a dead husk in space. We need power, Risa said, forcing calm into her voice. Weapons, engines, anything that lets us move. Jonah Patel, still sprawled on the floor from their near-death experience with the security system, lifted a hand. Yeah, hate to be the voice of reason here, but this ship is broken. As in, actively falling apart. Ilara Voss was already scanning the console. Not completely. The AI is operational. Even if fragmented, there's still something holding the ship together. Zeke Moreno cracked his knuckles. Then we fix what's busted and make it fly. Jonah sat up, rubbing his temples. You say that like it's easy. This thing is a Zarkari warship. It doesn't work on human logic. It doesn't use human parts. And even if I knew how to patch it, we've got, 20 minutes before their fleet turns us into cosmic dust. Closer to 15, Ilara corrected. Jonah groaned. Fantastic. Risa exhaled. We don't need the whole ship operational. Just enough to make a stand, or an escape. She turned to Ilara. What's our best shot? Ilara's fingers danced across her scanner. The primary weapon systems are offline, but the secondary batteries, point defenses, pulse cannons, are still intact. If we can reroute power, we might get some firepower back. Jonah narrowed his eyes. And the engines? Ilara bit her lip. The sublight thrusters are reparable. The FDL drive, though. Risa finished for her. Dead. Ilara nodded. Zeke clapped his hands. All right, so we dig in, fight like hell, and hope we don't die. Jonah groaned. I hate that plan. Risa ignored him. Ilara, focus on weapons. Zeke, find the least destroyed gun batteries and get them operational. Jonah, she met his eyes. You're on the engines? Jonah stared at her. Why do I always get the impossible jobs? Because you're the best at them. Jonah blinked. Then, reluctantly, he grumbled, Damn right, I am. Risa grinned. Then let's get to work. The clock is ticking. Jonah ran. Well, technically, it was more of a half-run, half-stumble through the ruined corridors of the Thunderhead, dodging sparking cables and jagged debris. Zarkari ships were built massive, all smooth black alloy and ominous, humming architecture. Even broken, it felt alive, like a predator licking its wounds. He reached the engine chamber, a cavernous space lined with conduits that pulsed weakly with fading power. The main reactor core loomed in the center, cracked but still pulsing faintly. Jonah skidded to a stop. Okay, big guy, let's see what's left of you. The reactor's diagnostic panel was unreadable, Zarkari script flashing erratic warnings. But Jonah had seen enough engines in his life to understand the problem. The antimatter containment was failing. Jonah cursed. Oh, come on. If the containment collapsed, the ship would cease to exist in a very bright, very final way. No pressure. He cracked his knuckles, pulled out his toolkit, and got to work. Meanwhile, on the gun decks, Zeke Moreno had always been good at improvisation. That's why, instead of using proper tools to fix the secondary turrets, he was rewiring a Zarkari cannon with a plasma torch and sheer force of will. The pulse cannons were still physically intact, but the targeting systems were fried. So Zeke did what any self-respecting scavenger would do. He bypassed them completely. Ilara, he called through his comm, how's that AI coming along? Her voice crackled in response. Still fragmented, but I'm syncing its core subsystems to recognize us as authorized users. Think it'll play nice? Possibly. Zeke smirked. Close enough. With a final spark, the gun console lit up. "Oh, hell yeah," he whispered. The Zarkari were in for a nasty surprise. The battle begins. On the bridge, Risa watched as the Zarkari fleet dropped out of hyperspace, sleek, blade-like ships gliding into formation. There were 5 of them. Not massive dreadnoughts, but fast attack ships. Fast, heavily armed, and very, very angry. The lead vessel hailed them. A cold, reptilian face filled the cracked comm screen. "Human scavengers. You have 5 seconds to surrender before we open fire." Risa smiled. "No, thanks." Then she hit the fire button. A ship awakens. Zeke's jury-rigged cannons roared to life, spewing golden lances of plasma into the void. The first Zarkari ship reeled, its shields flaring under the unexpected assault. On the engine deck, Jonah screamed as an explosion nearly knocked him off his feet. Sparks rained down as he manually rerouted the remaining power reserves. The sublight engines flared, weak but alive. Risa felt the hull tremble as the ship lurched forward. Elara gasped. "It's moving." And then, the voice of the Thunderhead rumbled through the ship. Systems re-engaged. Hostile forces detected. Risa's breath caught. The AI was awake. For the first time, it sounded focused. Human command interface accepted. Elara's hands flew over the controls. "It's integrating us into its battle systems." Zeke hooped. "Now that's what I like to hear." The Zarkari, realizing their own ship had turned against them, immediately retaliated. Their warships unleashed a hail of plasma, strafing the Thunderhead with deadly precision. Alarms blared. The hull shook. Jonah's voice crackled through the comms. "Risa, we can't take much more of this. Tell me we got something big." She turned to Elara. "What about the main gun?" Elara hesitated. "It's still down, but—" Wait. On the console, something shifted. A deep resonance pulsed through the ship, like a sleeping beast stretching. Then the AI spoke again. "Primary weapon systems. Reinitializing." Risa's pulse spiked. "What?" Elara stared at the screen. "I don't think we fixed the ship." Zeke grinned. "I think it's fixing itself." Risa looked out at the enemy fleet, then back at her crew. A slow, confident smile crept across her face. "Then let's show the Zarkari what happens when they abandon something this powerful." The Zarkari fleet closed in like a pack of hungry wolves, their sleek, predatory ships cutting through the void. Inside the Thunderhead, the air was thick with tension. The warship shuddered, its battered hull groaning as it absorbed another glancing plasma strike. Warning klaxons blared, red lights flashing across the bridge. "We can't take another hit like that." Jonah's voice crackled over the comms. "We won't have to," Elara shot back. "The AI is bringing the main weapon systems back online." Risa gripped the armrest of her chair, eyes locked on the tactical display. She didn't trust the ship's intelligence. Not yet, but if it wanted to help them survive, she wasn't about to argue. "Zeke," she barked, "give me another volley. Keep them from getting comfortable." "On it, Cap." The gun decks thundered as Zeke's jury-rigged cannon spat golden plasma into the void. The nearest Zarkari vessel reeled, its shields flaring brilliant blue before collapsing. Then the Thunderhead spoke. "Primary weapon systems. Operational." Elara sucked in a breath. "Oh." Risa's fingers hovered over the fire controls. "What's our payload?" The AI's voice was calm, almost amused. "Planetary siege cannon. Ready? Silence." Jonah's voice crackled over the comms. That sounds like overkill." Zeke laughed. "Oh, buddy, I love overkill." Risa's lips curled into a wolfish grin. "Then let's test it out." She slammed the fire control. Wrath of the Forgotten Beast. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the Thunderhead howled. A monstrous pulse of energy built deep within the ship's core, resonating through the hull. Outside, the Zarkari fleet hesitated. as if they could sense what was coming. Too late. A colossal beam of white-hot plasma erupted from the warship's dorsal cannon. It split the darkness, an unrelenting spear of destruction that tore through the lead Zarkari ship like paper. The enemy vessel didn't explode immediately. It simply ceased to exist, its atoms scattered into the void. Jonah, watching from the engine room, whispered, "Holy hell." The remaining Zarkari ships panicked. Their formation shattered, some attempting evasive maneuvers, while others opened fire in desperation. But the Thunderhead was fully awake now. It moved with unnatural grace, dodging incoming fire as if it could predict the shots before they landed. The AI's voice rumbled through the ship. Enemy tactical analysis complete. Deploying countermeasures. Panels along the hull hissed open, revealing sleek, needle-like drones that burst forth like a swarm of angry hornets. They descended upon the Zarkari, slipping past their shields, tearing into their ships with surgical precision. Zeke whistled. "Okay, yeah, I'm officially in love with this ship." Jonah, still recovering from shock, wheezed. I think we just became a superweapon." Risa, however, wasn't celebrating yet. She watched as the last two Zarkari ships broke away, trying to retreat into hyperspace. She narrowed her eyes. "Ilara, can we stop them?" Ilara hesitated. "I think so, but—" "Do it." The AI purred in approval, activating graviton snare. Space itself seemed to bend as the Thunderhead unleashed its final trick. Invisible tendrils of gravitational force wrapped around the fleeing ships, yanking them back into real space like fish caught in a net. And then, with eerie precision, the Thunderhead's drones finished the job. 2 blinding detonations later, the Zarkari fleet was no more. The weight of power. Silence fell over the bridge. The battlefield, once teeming with Zarkari warships, was now a graveyard of wreckage and scattered embers. Jonah let out a slow breath. "We just took out an entire fleet." Zeke chuckled. "Correction. We just took out an entire fleet with their own ship." Ilara, however, looked troubled. She ran a hand through her short hair. "This thing isn't just a warship. It's a relic of mass destruction." Risa exhaled, leaning back in her chair. "I know." Jonah frowned. "So, what do we do now?" "We can't let this ship fall back into Zarkari hands." Ilara nodded. "But if we keep it, we put a target on our backs. Every major power in the galaxy will come looking for it. For us." Zeke leaned against the console, arms crossed. "So we keep moving. We use this ship to make sure no one controls it but us." Risa tapped her fingers on the armrest. For the first time in her life, she had more power than she knew what to do with. They had a warship unlike any other. A ship that thought, that fought, that learned. A ship that had chosen them. A slow grin spread across her face. "We're not giving this ship up," she said firmly. "We've got something special here, and I'll be damned if we let it go to waste." Jonah groaned. "Oh, great. We're space warlords now." Zeke clapped him on the back. "Damn right, Jinx." Ilara smirked. "I prefer rogue saviors of the galaxy." Risa's eyes gleamed as she turned toward the forward viewport. "Whatever we are," she said, "we're not running anymore." The stars stretched before them as the Thunderhead surged forward, no longer a broken relic, but a beast reborn, a human legend in the making.